At my baby's gender reveal, my husband scoffed and said, "Mom thinks you made a mistake. We're having a boy, not a girl." His mother smirked, holding a fake ultrasound. Confused, I stared at them as they insisted I'd have to try again. Furious, I unlocked my phone and played a recording that sent the entire party into chaos. I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, Nate, 32 male, for 4 years. We met in Chicago and things moved fast. Too fast, probably. Looking back, there were red flags, but I ignored them because I thought I had found my person. His mother, Margaret, 55 female, was always involved in our relationship. Not just in a normal mother-in-law way, but in a way that made it clear she thought she was entitled to a say in everything. When we got married, she tried to take over the wedding planning. When we bought a house, she had opinions on the decor. When we announced the pregnancy, she acted like she was the one carrying the baby. At first, I thought she was just overexcited. But then the comments started. "You're carrying a boy." I just know it. The family needs a son. Nate was the firstborn grandson. It's only right he has a son first. I'd laugh it off or change the subject, but it didn't stop. She would constantly send me old wives' tales about predicting baby gender, refused to even consider girl names, and once, when I was buying baby clothes, she took everything pink out of the cart and replaced it with blue. Then came the gender reveal. We had planned a small party at a nice venue near the Chicago River. It wasn't anything extravagant, just close family and friends, a catered lunch, and a gender reveal cake. I was so excited. At this point, only I knew the baby's gender. Nate had insisted we open the envelope together, but I told him I wanted a surprise. He seemed fine with it at the time. The plan was simple: cut the cake and the inside would reveal pink or blue. The moment finally came. Everyone gathered around, and Nate took my hand as we cut into the cake. Pink. There was a half-second of silence, and then the room erupted in cheers. My mom gasped and clapped, my dad hugged me, my friends were cheering, everyone was happy. Except for Nate and Margaret. I noticed it immediately. Nate's jaw clenched. Margaret's lips pressed into a thin line. They weren't smiling. Then Nate scoffed. Loudly, "Mom thinks you made a mistake." The room went quiet. I froze. What? I laughed a little, thinking maybe it was a joke. What mistake? Then Margaret stepped forward, holding a folded piece of paper with a smug expression. "This is the real ultrasound," she said, shaking her head like I was a confused little child. "You're having a boy." I stared at her, then at the paper in her hand. I didn't take it. I didn't even reach for it. "What are you talking about?" I asked slowly. "Honey, it's okay," Margaret continued, like she was explaining something simple to a toddler. "Sometimes doctors misread these things. But don't worry. We'll try again next time, and you'll get it right." I felt my stomach drop. "We'll try again? Get it right?" I looked at Nate. He wasn't even looking at me. He was just nodding along with his mother, arms crossed, like this wasn't completely insane. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. That's when Nate sighed and finally looked at me. "We need a boy," he said, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. A girl isn't what we were expecting. I don't know how long I stood there, my hands still gripping the cake knife. My heart was pounding in my ears. My vision blurred. I could feel everyone's eyes on us. Then I snapped out of it. "That's funny," I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. "Because I have an ultrasound, too." I set down the knife, pulled out my phone, and unlocked my recordings. Now, I'm not stupid. Margaret had been acting weird for weeks leading up to the party. She kept asking if I was sure about the gender. She kept trying to get me to tell her where I got my ultrasound done. She was too invested. So, I started recording our conversations. I pressed play. Margaret's voice came through loud and clear. "You need to make sure the gender reveal is blue. If it's a girl, say the doctor made a mistake. Nate will back you up." The room went dead silent. Then another recording. This time, Nate's voice. "Yeah, Mom, don't worry. If it's a girl, we'll tell her she read it wrong and do a new one. You could have her to pin drop." Then, chaos. My dad lost it. My mom's face went white. My best friend, Jenna, who was filming the whole thing, gasped so loud I thought she'd choke. And Nate? He panicked. "Babe, wait," I held up a hand. "No, you don't get to talk." Margaret, still holding the fake ultrasound, looked like she had seen a ghost. I turned back to the guests. They faked an ultrasound. They planned this. They wanted to gaslight me into thinking my baby's gender was wrong so I would try again for a boy. Gasps. More whispers. Someone said, "Are you serious?" Margaret actually tried to deny it. "This is ridiculous. I was just trying to help. You don't understand how important it is for our family to have a son." I laughed. I actually laughed. "Well, Margaret," I said, I don't care what's important to your family. Because guess what? This baby? She's mine. And you? You're done. Nate took a step closer, trying to grab my arm. Please, babe, let's just talk. I pulled away. I looked at him, really looked at him, and suddenly everything was so clear. This wasn't just about the gender reveal. This was about control. About him and his mother thinking they had a right to make decisions about my body, my child, my life. And I was done. I looked at Margaret, then at Nate, then at the entire room of people who had just witnessed the biggest mistake of their lives. You want to try again for a boy? I said, my voice cold. You go ahead. But it won't be with me. Nate's face drained of color. The weight of what I'd just said settled over the entire room. A few people gasped. Others just looked back and forth between me, Nate, and Margaret like they were watching a slow-motion car crash. Margaret recovered first. Of course, she did. You're being emotional, she snapped, straightening her spine like a scolding schoolteacher. You're making a scene over nothing. Nothing? I let out a sharp laugh, shaking my head. Nothing? You and your son faked an ultrasound. You tried to gaslight me into thinking my own child didn't exist the way she is. And that's nothing? Nate tried again, his hands reaching for me, his voice softer now, coaxing. Babe, I stepped back. Don't touch me. Margaret scoffed. Enough of this. Just give me the real ultrasound, and we'll settle this right now. I turned to look at her, stunned. Did she really think she still had control here? You think I owe you proof? I said, my voice low. You think I need to convince you that my daughter is real? Margaret opened her mouth, but I wasn't done. You don't get a say. You don't get to decide what my child is, and you sure as hell don't get to be part of her life. Silence. Then Margaret's mask cracked. That's ridiculous. Nate, talk to her. Nate was frozen, his lips slightly parted, like his brain was still trying to catch up. He had the look of a man whose entire world was crashing around him, and he had no idea why. Good. Then Margaret made a mistake. A big mistake. She turned to my mother. Can you please talk some sense into your daughter? You don't want your grandchild growing up without a father, do you? My mother, who had been eerily quiet this whole time, took a slow step forward. My granddaughter will be just fine, she said in a dangerously calm voice. But you. She tilted her head. You just made sure you'll never see her. Boom. Margaret reeled back like she'd been slapped. You can't do that. Watch me, I shot back. Then, before anyone could respond, someone else spoke up. Isn't that fraud? The voice came from Nate's own cousin, Jake, a guy I'd always thought was kind of an ass, but right now, he was my favorite person in the room. Margaret whirled around. Excuse me? The fake ultrasound, Jake said, gesturing toward the paper still clutched in her hand. That's fraud, right? Like, legally? Whispers broke out across the room. A few guests moved away from Margaret and Nate like they didn't want to be associated with whatever this was turning into. Nate finally seemed to snap out of his haze. Mom, he hissed under his breath, just stop talking. Margaret ignored him. It's not fraud. It was a joke. A harmless joke. Someone scoffed. Jenna, my best friend, muttered, that's some next-level crazy. And then, because this wasn't dramatic enough, Margaret tried one last thing. She lunged for my phone. Yes! In front of a room full of witnesses, she tried to grab my phone. I yanked it back, stumbling slightly as she grabbed at my wrist. A couple of guests gasped. My dad stepped forward instantly, but he didn't need to. Because someone else was faster. Jake. He physically stepped between us, holding up both hands. Are you insane? He snapped at Margaret. You seriously just tried to snatch her phone? What is wrong with you? Margaret flushed bright red. But Jake was done. You faked a medical document. You tried to gaslight your own daughter-in-law. And now you're getting physical? He let out a low whistle. Damn, Aunt Margaret. You lost it. The energy shifted. People started grabbing their things. Chairs scraped against the floor. Conversations broke out. A few of Nate's own family members started leaving. Margaret saw it. She felt the shift. And she panicked. You're all overreacting, she shrieked. No one listened. Then she turned to Nate. Do something. But Nate? Nate was still standing there, frozen, his mouth half open like he couldn't believe this was happening. Then his father, who had been quiet this whole time, spoke. Give it up, Margaret, he said, his voice heavy with exhaustion. You just destroyed any chance you had of being in this child's life. I swear, I saw something break in her expression. Then she turned on me. You did this, she hissed. You poisoned my son against me. You ruined everything. I just smiled. No, Margaret, I said softly. You did that all on your own. And with that, I turned on my heel, grabbed my purse, and walked straight out the door. Behind me, chaos erupted. I stepped outside, my chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. The warm Chicago air hit my skin, but I barely felt it. My mind was racing, my body still trembling with adrenaline. Inside, I could hear voices still exploding in chaos. Margaret yelling. Nate trying and failing to control the situation. Chairs scraping. Someone knocked over a glass. The entire gender reveal party had turned into an absolute circus. And I didn't care. I had bigger things to deal with. Jenna rushed out behind me, her face a mix of shock and excitement. Holy shit. That was insane. I ran a hand through my hair, exhaling. I need to get out of here. You're not going back to your house, right? She asked quickly, her voice sharp with concern. My stomach twisted. My house. The home I decorated, I loved, I made into a safe space. A home I shared with Nate. No. No way in hell was I going back there tonight. I'll stay with my parents, I muttered. Jenna nodded, already pulling out her phone. Good. Let me call an Uber, just in case Nate tries to follow you. That's when my phone buzzed. I glanced down. A text from Nate. Nate, come back inside. Let's talk. My fingers curled around the phone so tightly I thought I might break it. Talk? Talk about what? The fact that he and his mother had just tried to gaslight me into thinking my baby's gender was wrong? The fact that they had humiliated me in front of everyone? I ignored it. Then another text. Nate, we can fix this. I let out a humorless laugh. Jenna peered at my screen, rolling her eyes. Oh, he's delusional. Then, before I could even think about blocking his number, a new text popped up. Not from Nate. From an unknown number. Unknown. You just made the biggest mistake of your life, little girl. You think you can take my grandchild away from me? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Margaret. I felt a chill rush down my spine. Jenna saw it, too. Tell me that's not who I think it is. I swallowed, my throat dry. She's unhinged, I whispered. Jenna didn't hesitate. She snatched the phone from my hand, took a screenshot, and sent it to herself. We're keeping this, she muttered. Just in case she tries some crazy shit. And then? Then she did what I hadn't even thought of yet. She called the police. By the time we got to my parents' house, I was drained. I hadn't cried yet, I wasn't ready for that. But the exhaustion was starting to settle in. My dad was waiting on the porch, arms crossed, face tight with worry. My mom hugged me so hard I thought she'd never let go. You're safe here, she murmured. I just nodded, my head still spinning. Then, as I stepped inside, my phone buzzed again. A call. From my bank. I frowned and answered. Hello? Hi, Mrs. Last name. We're calling to confirm some recent transactions on your joint account with Nathaniel, last name. I stopped walking. What transactions? The woman on the other end hesitated. There's been a withdrawal of $12,000 from your shared savings account, as well as a new line of credit opened in both of your names. We just need verbal confirmation that these were authorized by you. My stomach dropped. I turned and looked at my parents, my voice barely above a whisper. I didn't authorize anything. A beat of silence. Then the woman's voice returned, more urgent now. Mrs. Last name, I strongly recommend you contact your lawyer and the authorities. It appears these actions were taken without your consent. And just like that, my entire life shattered even more. Nate had stolen from me. I called Jenna into the room, put the phone on speaker, and explained the situation. My dad was already grabbing his car keys. Where are you going? I asked. To get your name off that damn account, he said, seething. But before he even made it out the door, something else happened. My phone rang again. This time, an unknown number. I hesitated. Then I answered. Hello? A man's voice came through. Low. Serious. You don't know me, but I think you should sit down for this. My heart pounded. Who is this? He sighed. My name's Daniel. And I think you need to know the truth about your husband. I exchanged a sharp look with Jenna. What truth? I demanded. Daniel let out a bitter chuckle. The truth about who he's been seeing behind your back for the past 6 months. I swear, for a second, my entire body just shut down. I sat down. My hands were shaking. Who? I forced out. Daniel sighed. My sister. And trust me, she had no idea he was married. And across from him? A woman. Her. The one from the pictures. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Oh my God, she gasped, standing up so fast she knocked over her drink. Nate shot to his feet, his face draining of color. What are you doing here? He stammered. I let out a slow breath, staring at him. I could ask you the same thing. His jaw tightened. Look, this isn't what it, save it. I cut him off. I know everything. I got a call from her brother. I have pictures. I know you've been doing this for months. The woman, let's call her Ashley, because I honestly didn't care about her real name, looked horrified. Wait. She's your wife, she whispered. Nate didn't answer. And that? That was all she needed to know. She turned on him, eyes blazing. You told me you were divorced. I actually laughed. Oh, sweetheart, he didn't just lie about that. He also emptied our savings account and committed bank fraud in my name. Ashley staggered back. You what? Nate swallowed hard, running a hand through his hair. He was unraveling fast. Look, we can figure this out. I pulled out my phone and held up the screenshot of Margaret's text. And your mother? She threatened me. In writing. Nate's eyes flickered to the screen. I saw the exact moment he realized just how screwed he was. Jenna, standing behind me, crossed her arms. So, Nate, want to explain how you're gonna wiggle your way out of this one? Silence. Ashley shook her head, stepping away. You told me you loved me, she said, her voice shaking. I rolled my eyes. Oh, honey. He told me the same thing while plotting to fake our baby's gender with his mom. Ashley's face twisted in disgust. That was the final straw. You're disgusting, she spat at Nate. Then she grabbed her purse and ran out the door. Boom. One problem solved. But now? Now, it was just me and him. Nate turned to me, his face hardening. Okay, you made your point. Now let's sit down and you don't get to tell me what to do anymore. I took a step closer, my heart pounding but my voice steady. You and your mother tried to erase my daughter before she was even born. You stole money from me. You cheated on me. And you honestly thought I wouldn't find out. His hands curled into fists. You're overreacting. That did it. I snapped. Overreacting. My voice rose. Overreacting? You gaslit me. You stole from me. You tried to control my pregnancy. You lied to me for months. Nate's jaw clenched. You're making a mistake. You think you can just walk away? Do you know how hard it'll be as a single mom? I smiled. I actually smiled. Oh, Nate. I stepped forward, my voice almost gentle. You think I'm leaving with nothing? I reached into my bag and pulled out the folder. The divorce papers. Already drafted. Already notarized. Already set in motion. Nate stared at them. Surprise, I said, throwing them on the coffee table. He grabbed them, flipping through the pages. You can't be serious. Oh, I'm dead serious. Then? The final blow. I also froze the accounts. Moved everything under my name. You won't see a single penny of what's left. His face turned red. You can't. I already did. His breathing turned erratic. You're ruining my life. I let out a humorless laugh. You did that all by yourself. Then, before he could say another word, before he could try to manipulate me one last time, I turned and walked out. I didn't look back. It took a few weeks for everything to fully unravel. Margaret tried calling me dozens of times. She left angry voicemails, ranging from insults to fake apologies to outright threats. Then, she tried showing up at my parents' house. Big mistake. My dad had already filed a police report about her threatening text. So when she showed up, trying to barge into the house screaming about how I was stealing her grandchild, she got arrested for trespassing. As for Nate, he fought me hard in the divorce. But between the bank fraud, the cheating, and the police report against his mother, the judge didn't have much sympathy for him. I got full custody. Nate got nothing. And the best part? I never had to see him or Margaret again. Now, I look at my daughter, my beautiful, perfect baby girl, and I thank God every day that I got away from those people. She will never grow up thinking she's less because she's not a boy. She will never have to deal with her father and grandmother treating her like a mistake. And me? I am finally free.